I'm going to do something just a little bit different in this video. I want to take a look at some material from a philosopher named Manley P Hall. I want to talk about this in this video. This one is how to understand your Bible. And well, you know what? I got this book a long time ago. There's, in my years of interest in this, I'm sure you're the same way. You go down all these rabbit holes of trying different things. I've been down them all. Pyramids, aliens, all this stuff. You get to a point where you go, okay, this doesn't have what I'm looking for. Although many people stay right there. They get hung up in that. They believe it. You go check it out. It sounds good. Yeah. You keep asking questions. Pretty soon it falls apart. And you're like, okay, guys, you're kind of crazy here. I see what's going on. Anyway, so along the way, though, you collect a lot of material that I look at later and go, I could really clean out my library a little bit. And I've recently done some of that. And what I wanted to do, it got me thinking about this with Manley P Hall, because he's got a lot of books and a lot of information. He's gone. He was a very significant part of a New Age movement in fairly recent times. But he gave a lot of lectures that I'm sure you can find YouTube videos on him. It's you can see how it is. It's not the way of orating at that time. I have a hard time sitting and listening to the videos. But I wanted to go ahead and just look at some of the material. You guys know I'm looking for the template. At the core of this mentally interactive template, it is a path to enlightenment. The stuff is mentally interactive, and I want to see what he knows. What I'm going to read right here is just because it's familiar to me. Well, all of the Bible is. But chapter 3, Noah and the Deluge. This is on page 29 of his book. How to Understand Your Bible, a philosopher's interpretation of obscure and puzzling passages. All right. It starts off, Seth occupies a most important place in the order of the patriarchs. Seth is the first of the perfect men. According to the Qabbalistic interpretation of the Bible, there were 13 men born perfect. The inference is that in the end, these 13 will be the Messiah and his 12 disciples. Why is that an inference? There appears, I'm okay with that. The idea in the template is exactly that. The Messiah is the conscious self that is on the path. That's the called person. That's the title being given in this material that is holding the template in a way that is very effective for a population to carry, okay? So they're looking for a Messiah and the disciples, when really the Messiah is you when you're the called person, and the 12 things are the qualities that you need to live by. Although one of them, Thomas, that's our doubt. That's our fear. We always have that. We question ourselves. That is a part of us as well. So I do get what he's saying here, and I agree, but he doesn't explain that. Does he know that? I don't know. Let me read that again. According to the Kabbalistic interpretation of the Bible, there were 13 men born perfect. The inference is that in the end, these 13 will be the Messiah and the 12 disciples. I agree, but he didn't provide an inference. He just said there was. There appears to be a direct reference to this mystery in the words of Christ. Before Abraham was, I am, and you were with me before the worlds were. Okay, the before Abraham was, I am. The Christ is the pure self. This is day 7. This is day 3. You follow my work. This is naked, unashamed in the garden. This purity that we're looking for was way in the beginning. We want to go back to the beginning, back to the same place. The golden fleece on the far side of the world. The 13 perfect men represent the flowering of the ages. We just talked about the 13 perfect men being the qualities that we have inside of us as living in life. How does that become the flowering of the ages? Yeah, I don't know. So there's some weird verbiage in here. In each order of descent of the patriarchs, there is one who is perfect. The first is Seth, and the second is Noah. It is written in the Talmud that Noah was born with white hair. So he's mentioned a book here that's got my attention. If somebody mentions a book and then tells me what it says, I would be interested, and I would get the book and go see what it says for myself. I wouldn't take what they said. It is written in the Talmud that Noah was born with white hair, a strange, prematurely aged creature whose father was so vastly amazed at his appearance that he hastened to his guide and counselor, the ancient Methuselah, saying, "What manner of offspring or son is this?" Methuselah replied, "He is the one who is to bring the oblivion. Therefore thou shalt name him Rest, or on the suspension that is to hang above all things. Therefore the child was named Noah, which means rest, or that which moves not and is suspended above the oblivion. Noah is the 10th descendant from Adam, and Noah is the son of Lamech, and Lamech is blind." Okay, what I get out of this is something that, in the Bible it doesn't have anything like this. What this right here would fit right away with in the Exodus, Moses. He's called on Mount Horeb, but before then he is saved as a child in the river. He is isolated out as a youngster. In the Argonautica, we have Jason, who is saved out his birth and sent off to go train before he returns to start his adventure. So there's an isolation. Somehow this person is singled out as a child first. Jesus, same thing. They go back to Egypt. They escape, saved out at birth. He's back in the temple at 12, but his ministry doesn't start until 30. So in other stories, we're seeing, and in my template, Joseph Campbell doesn't have this in his template. There's a prior starting to the calling, and that is there's an isolation. There's few that are going to figure it out. This right here would fit with that. It's not in the Bible, but this right here is kind of showing that, if that is true, that Moses was also saved out as a child. That somehow he was special, isolated as a kid. He wasn't like others. So that fits the pattern. Lamech, and Lamech is blind. I didn't know that Lamech is blind. I don't know if I got that out of the Bible. But if he is, that would be okay. Jesus tells us to pull the mote out of our eye. We're still going back to the idea that, blindness means we're living life unaware that we're living through effect. That there's cause going on, but we're just living, bouncing off of whatever's happening, making decisions on what's out there. This becomes the determining factor as we process information on the quality of our life. And once we realize that and go, oh, I'm going to pull back and stop judging and doing things like that because I'm caught up in it, there's something different that's happening. So first, we're in iteration. We are Lamech that is blind. Noah is the one, that's the next iteration of us. That's when we wake up and go, oh, I need to go on this adventure. So Lamech being blind, that is fine. That fits. I didn't know that detail, but it's okay. I like it, yeah. In the line of descent from Cain, every fifth patriarch is a murderer. I did not know that. You know what? That gets my attention. I don't know that it's true or not. I'm going to go look. But why it gets my attention? Every fifth patriarch. That's a pattern. There's something going on. Genesis is full of patterns, numbers, sequences repeating over and over again. This would have to be one of them. I will go look. Okay, so as I go through here, there's it kind of floats out there. It's not interactive. There is information here, but it's not really taking me someplace where I go, oh, okay, I get it. How to understand your Bible. After reading that, do you understand the Bible? I want to read one back here that is actually an important one. What you just saw there was me getting some good information from what he had, but I'm not going to take his word for anything. I would go get a Talmud. I would go do the research on my own. I don't trust anybody's interpretation of material. If the material is available, I want to read it for myself. I want to interpret it too. I will do it for myself. We were selected out. It's a brain type. We're just rare. All right, without reading a lot right here, I'm going to just grab a couple of things that are said that, this is Gaia Channel stuff. Yeah, Greg Braden, Giants Under the Ice, something weird stuff. Okay, the description given in Genesis 1, verses 1 to 31 must be understood to represent the gradual development of the physical universe. The Elohim, the gods of the dawn, mold the negative substances of beginning into the form and patterns of the solar system. In my material, when it becomes interactive, what we understand Adam and Eve to be is the conscious and then the inner being, and that everything fits the template that way. What I'm going to do is read something called the 7 Keys about Adam and Eve. The story of Adam and Eve, as given in the opening chapters of Genesis, has been considered as an allegorical exposition of the cosmic processes which resulted in the differentiation of the human species. It is important next to realize that the secret doctrine concealed in the Bible must be discovered with the aid of certain keys. Each of the myths, fables, and symbolic figures has at least 7 complete and distinct interpretations. Ooh, this is interesting. In other words, to open the door, that is, unveil the secret, the key must be turned 7 times in the lock. In the ancient mystery rituals, the key was an important emblem of discovery or enlightenment. Neophytes received symbolic keys as part of their investitures. In the Mithraic rites, candidates were taken through 7 doors, which they unlocked, and in the Egyptian mystery of the resurrection of the soul, the aspirant was brought to the gates of fulfillment and was interrogated by the keepers of the gates. I don't know any of that stuff. And it's interesting. 7s are all over history, ancient history. It may seem strange that one story or account may have several meanings, but such is the working of the Kabbalah. In the original Hebrew, there were numerical and letter ciphers to aid in the decoding of the hidden information. Translation and editing have destroyed these other older Kabbalistic patterns, and it is now necessary to have recourse to the fascinating field of comparative religion in order to unlock the biblical secrets. You know, comparative religion is how you do it. The patterns aren't hidden. Check out my channel. Numbers, 7s, 3s. It's there. Let's go on and see what he says. As an example, we'll see where he gets with this interactive recourse for the conscious and the subconscious beginning to live life and get hurt, and how we come about and heal. As an example, ADM, Adam, is first of all species or kind, meaning a particular generation, a genre. ADM is also a symbol of Adonai, the creating Lord. ADM is also Aries, the first sign of the zodiac. ADM is the incarnating ego, the father of the multitudes. ADM is the human principle perpetuated forever in the seed. ADM is again protagonist and the ideal of archetypal pattern. Plato's idea or logos, ADM is the universe whose body, nature is, and God, the soul. Whew. I don't know where he went. This is what New Age looks like. I'm going to take your material, tell you it's wrong, and tell you what it really means. That's like the conspiracy theorist, isn't it? I'm going to take your science, I'm going to take your archaeology, tell you that it's wrong, and tell you what it really means. I got no evidence. I'm just going to make claims. I got no evidence. I'm just going to make claims. Yeah, there's a lot of that. To me, the most conspicuous difference is anything New Age is still supernatural. It's still something that somebody can know, and you can listen to them, and you can believe them, but you can't know on your own. You can't. That's what the world does. There's 2 directions to use this material. All of it, 2 directions. Outward or inward. Outward. How many paths are there? How many people are there that aren't looking inward? That's how many paths. Okay, Proverbs. The book of Proverbs is attributed to Solomon and should be understood as reflecting the wisdom and culture of Israel at that time. The difficulty we have today is the lamentably bad translations of these scriptural books. Really? All the subtlety of the originals vanished centuries ago, leaving a mass of material still interesting, but lacking a certain vitality. One example will summarize the entire situation. This sounds like Gnostics talking. They took everything out of the Bible that we need, and then they go off and treat it like it's supernatural anyway. Do you recognize things like this? This is like, I would say, alternate thinking, conspiracy theory. This is the kind of stuff that is said, right? It's just thrown out there as if you're supposed to believe this. All of the subtlety of the originals vanished centuries ago. How do you know that? How come you have that information? Where are they? How come the rest of us don't know? Why can't we know that? Why do we have to take your word for it? Show me that. That's like saying the Egyptians did not build the pyramids and all of the evidence is gone. You just have to believe me. It's the same thing. You can't just make a claim like that and then act like you've got some sort of authority. And what I know is that from English translations of the Torah, when I make comparisons between an English translation of the Torah and an NRSV or a King James Bible, it's all there. There was nothing taken out of it. So right there, it took on a whole different kind of a tone. I'm going to see something else here. One example, let's see what his example is. One example will summarize the entire situation. Chapter 1:7 in Proverbs. I'm not going to read it from the Bible. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, is what the verse says. And then he replies, now technically and philosophically speaking, this is untrue. For we are taught to love the Lord our God, and love and fear cannot abide together. So we wonder what might originally have been intended. Okay, what he doesn't know, bam. He doesn't know it's an analog. He doesn't know there's a template. He's not interpreting it. He thinks it means being afraid of the Lord or loving the Lord in the physical sense. So it's not in the psyche for him. The information he gathers is good. You know, that whole fifth and things like that. I guess I can trust things like that. It's like if I go to the Christian site to look for numbers, how many times does this appear? How many times does that appear? 7-3 or something like that. And it'll put in there how many times it appears in the Bible. That's an easy thing to do. But then it'll go on and tell you that, like number 7 means that that the Lord, the connection of spirit, blah, it goes off into something you're like, well, I trust you counted the right amounts, but whatever you're telling me it means is crazy. That's what I get out of here. I trust you can certain things, but don't interpret it for me. You're not interpreting it, okay? The fear of the Lord is not fear. The analogs, we're working with these things. If I am naked in the story, that's a good thing. That means I'm not covered spiritually with something. I'm not hiding something. I am naked. You can know anything about me and it doesn't bother me. If you have something inside that you don't want people to know, it's going to be bothersome. You're covered. Naked is a good thing. Eating. Should you starve? Yeah. Not in the physical world, but in the spiritual world. That's fasting is to the world. Getting away from it. Stop taking things in. Stop absorbing. Stop learning stuff that is just crap. Slow down and look at reality. So the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge is what it's. This is the fear of the Lord. This is the connection. This is our higher self and our conscious beginning to connect. It's right in the beginning of Proverbs too, which is where it would be if that's the case. I should grab the Bible, but that's okay. What I wanted to point out here without getting into it is that he doesn't have it interpreted, that we do want to make that connection. And fear does not mean I'm afraid of you. Like naming is the origin of all particular things doesn't mean that the world came into existence because something called it a name. That's crazy. It means my experience came into existence because I have judged it, qualified it, named it. We have to unwrap the analogous verbiage that is on the template. He doesn't know that it's there. So right off the bat, I will say that I would read this for every fifth in the generation was a murder. Ooh, I like that. He doesn't know why, but there's patterns in there. I'm interested in that. The idea that the Talmud might show something about Noah that is not in the Bible, where he was like pre-selected as a kid. Oh, that's interesting. But I won't even take his word for that because of other stuff he says. You have to take everything with a grain of salt. I would say in this case, it's interesting. It's good to hear that. I'm not going to go verify it because I don't need to. I see it other places enough to know that it is a part of the pattern. And if Noah's on it, yep, should be. That makes sense. It's being obscured in the Bible. Yep, makes sense. But it doesn't take out the calling. It takes out the isolation. I would follow up on what he says, but I would also dismiss some things completely out of hand as I know better than that. I edited this and I was done with the video, but I was sitting here thinking, because I've struggled to get out and to talk to people about the template, the pattern that's all over the place. And people won't even talk to you, or they'll tell you, you're just stupid. It's been discounted over and over again. Leave it alone. Give it a rest. I talk to people who aren't religious, people who are, all about mythology and different things like that, and talk about the template. They won't even talk to you. And I can understand that if people like Manley P Hall have been doing this kind of stuff and making the comparisons and then coming up with what he's coming up, that's why people don't want to talk to me. They think it's this bullshit. Okay, that's all I wanted to say in this video. I hope that covered it, and that's my take on Manley P Hall. Hope it was helpful. See you in the next video.